everybody, welcome back to Men Need to Be Heard. So, episode, I don't know what number, I can't keep track of this stuff. But one of the things that I want to do with this podcast is, if you're a regular listener or watcher of it, is share guys' stories. So, as you know, I've had other people on the show to talk about their story, but this is one that if you've ever had to deal or heard about false allegations, this is one you want to pay attention to, because my guest today has been through hell. All right. I've talked about my personal story in the past and issues that I've gone through. They are nothing compared to what this man has gone through. And I say that very sincerely because it's horrific. And I want to make sure his story gets out and that we share it, because our goal with this show is to educate guys about what goes on out there in the real world and help guys so that they don't fall into these. So my special guest today is Jason. Jason, welcome to the show. How are you today, my friend?
Oh, pretty good. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself in general, just to kind of introduce yourself.
My name is Jason. I live in West Virginia. I moved here when I was about 13, and I don't know. And fast forward today, then here I am. I made a TikTok video, and everyone started liking it, so here I am today.
All right, so let's jump into it, because this is really important stuff here. So
Okay.
what I reached out to Jason after seeing the video he's referencing. So as you know, I'm on TikTok. Many of you follow me, so I hear from guys all the time. But actually had, I think, off the top of my head, it was 3 or 4 different guys send me your video, Jason. All right, because they wanted me to see it. Because it hit home with them. And then I saw it, and within a matter of minutes, I reached out to you, and here we are. So why don't you, just to kind of give us the full story about why you made that video, what it's about. Just tell us everything that happened, because the guys need to hear this.
Okay. Like the whole story, or
Just go right ahead. You tell us whatever you want to share.
um, bear with me. I'm a little nervous, but
It's okay, my
yeah,
friend.
I was sleeping one night. I was watching Peppa Pig with my daughter, and then all of a sudden I got woken up, and I was told that I kept asking me, please leave, or something. And I just got up. It was in the middle of the morning, and I got in my truck. I went to an Eaton Park, and I slept in my truck for like a couple of days. And then I just went to my parents' house, and I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't answer my calls, nothing. And then I get a phone call from Child Services saying they are doing an investigation, that I couldn't have no contact with my family. And then that's where it started.
What?
So I don't, and so anyways, my stepdaughter was the one that accused me of some horrible things. And I went through getting indicted, being in the newspaper, hiding, lawyers, all kinds of stuff. And then all of a sudden she came up and she said, you know what? I made it all up. And so they're like, bam, it's all done. But during that whole process, they took my parental rights away. Um, Later on, Child Services took I had to sign my house over to her in order to see my daughter. And it was just one thing after another after another. And
Wow.
I don't know, it's kind of like it in a nutshell.
Well, that is it in a nutshell, right? So just to be clear, you've been completely cleared of everything at this point.
Yeah, I carry I carry the form on my phone, because sometimes I'll get like a weird feeling, or where I know someone knows about my thing, and just in case I have to show them, or someone's trying to fight me or something. Like, I don't know. When you're good, it don't make the news. So I carry this thing on my phone just in case I have to show somebody.
And
That kind of sucks.
I've heard from other guys that exact same scenario. They either carry the paperwork with them.
Mhm.
This goes back, God, 20 years ago. There was a guy, somewhat similar situation to yours. cell phones were, the flip phones at the time. They didn't have anything like smartphones like we have now. But he used to carry his court paperwork with him in his wallet that showed he'd been cleared because, it was public record that he had been indicted. He actually went to trial and all this stuff. So he, much like you, it was all over the news. He lived in a small town.
Yeah, the same here.
Yeah, so everybody knew about it, but he was eventually 100% cleared. He actually ended up getting custody. So,
when my indictment came out, I was clueless. I was like, "Oh my gosh," because I had no clue what actually they had, or what they're coming up with, because it's been silent, like no news about nothing. And then when the indictment comes, I was scared. I was thought they're going to come arrest me. I was staying in a hotel. I went to Pennsylvania and I was staying in Pittsburgh because I was afraid. I didn't know whether I should turn myself in or they're come after me. Like I had no clue what to do. It was very scary at the time.
how could you not be scared, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this I'm sure came out of nowhere. You pretty much said that. I mean, what was your initial reaction to it all? Like you said, you were, I guess, laying in bed when this all first happened. What was like the very first couple of thoughts you had with all of this?
Well, when she told me to leave, I thought we just haven't been getting along lately, and she has a temper and she gets loud. When I get mad, I'm not playing like I'm innocent. When I get mad, I just get quiet. But I don't want to wake the kids anymore. I just got woke up, so I just left because I didn't want to argue. I figured I'd come home the next day. And after all that time, when I first heard these things, it was mainly they had this video. And when I heard about the video and had to listen to it and watch it, it was just absolutely horrendous. Like I couldn't believe it. And I don't know. I'm still in shock today. I have no clue how somebody can say some certain things that were said. Like, how can you make that up? It's just, I don't know. It seems impossible to me. Like, I don't know. I don't want to say she was coached, but it's very crazy. I don't know. But anyways, it made this video and it ruined my life.
So it was your stepdaughter, I think you said, that did that?
Yes, sir.
And she's subsequently retracted everything, just so we're clear on that. You mentioned that on your TikTok video. Your reaction, I've heard before, my friend, just so you know. You're going through something like that. How can you not be scared, right? It's horrible.
This whole time, I couldn't see my own daughter. I'm like, why couldn't I see my daughter? They already treated me like I was a predator just when I got accused. They had no evidence or nothing. And like, I don't know, it was my stepdaughter, but she took my own daughter away. And anyways, my own daughter got involved in this whole case when it was all about my stepdaughter after this video.
Yeah, because CPS, Child Protective, treats it as if you're doing it to one, you're doing it to everybody. I mean,
well, this is a company, they were called the Harmony House. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I've not heard of that. Go ahead. Can you share a little bit about that?
I really don't know. I guess it's a place that supports women, whether they've been abused or I guess.
Domestic. So it's a domestic violence shelter.
It's called Comfort House.
Yeah, I've actually worked with them, so I'm a very familiar. I've done shows on the domestic violence shelters and how they operate. I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to focus on that today. But yeah, they get involved in situations like yours that they're never minor. I don't want them to be, make it seem like I'm making it that way, but they explode them and it becomes nightmarish scenarios. Jason, what was the reaction of your friends and family when they started hearing about this? How did they support you? Did they walk away? How were they saying or reacting to it?
I am truly blessed with two of the best parents in the world. A lot of friends quit talking to me, but at the same time, I was in a relationship for a very long time with this girl. I didn't have a whole bunch of friends. I really didn't go out and party and stuff, I just had friends that I'd known from like my whole life. Mm-hmm. And most of them quit talking to me at that time, and I really don't care to be friends with them anymore after that.
Oh, I totally understand that because if they didn't have your back then,
No.
And again, they don't know what's going on. We have to acknowledge that they're hearing one thing and they don't know. But they, like you said, they were friends for years, I'm sure. This, what you're
I was
talking
scared. Like
about.
I was even going to the grocery store, like I feel like I had to leave that entire town. I was scared. I was very, very scared. Like I didn't know what to do. Going to the grocery store, like going anywhere.
Mhm.
Like when you get indicted, you live in a small town, like everyone knows. Even if I got a speeding ticket, everyone will know. It's just that's what happens in a small town. Everyone reads the news and they know what's going on.
Yeah, and typically it's in the papers. Gets put on TV often.
Right.
Radio. I've done TV and radio in the past. I know that old saying, if it bleeds, it leads. In a case like that, like yours, it's gonna be one of the A block stories, the first few stories they talk about.
Right.
And unfortunately, when you get cleared, it never gets put back up in majority of the
Oh,
time.
there's so much in that story. There's a bunch of twisted stuff that happened in between that I found in life, like afterwards, and it's so corrupt. Like I was talking about that Harmony House. They had this video against me, and I found out that there was a detective that had an earpiece, and the person that was doing the interviewing had an earpiece, and I guess they were doing the questioning, kind of like working together. And they ended up questioning my daughter and my stepdaughter when it was supposed to just be my stepdaughter. I found out later, excuse me, I'm nervous.
It's
I found
okay.
out
It's okay.
later that they took them both and they had got rape kits, which came back nothing, and this video, which I'll tell you about the video. It's just after this video happened, like it was just, I couldn't believe it. It was worse than in the indictment. Like just reading, like if I tell you some of the things in that video, it's like impossible to believe. I don't know. I was just shell shocked.
But
I don't know.
share whatever you want, Jason. It's entirely up to you what you share. Um,
Okay.
but again, I respect your privacy too. So
Okay. Well, all right. I'm gone from my house, and I find out when I get indicted that all the stuff's coming against me. So we end up finding a lawyer, and I had to hire a lawyer, and I was prepared, and it was going, but it sucked. All this time in between, I just had to hide. It just get worse and worse and worse, and I was afraid my own lawyer didn't believe me. It sucked. Like all I had was my parents. But when they did this video, my daughter said that I bit her like a shark, and my stepdaughter said that I stuck my thumb up her butt. She
mm,
said that I said she said if she told anyone I'd threaten to kill her. She said I'll take pictures and make them watch porno. I don't know. There's just a whole bunch of stuff. Like I really couldn't watch the video. Like I just broke down. Like just if you saw that and them saying that about you, and and like you're innocent, like how if that feeling's freaking, it's insane. Like I don't know if there's a name for that feeling when you truly didn't do that.
mm-hmm.
And I don't know. And so it was just horrible. I My lawyer, well, they gave me a court appointed lawyer. For some reason, I had like two trials, two things. One was for something, one was criminal. I have no clue really. But they gave me a court appointed attorney, and she said that she thought I was guilty. And I'm like, you're my own attorney. I was like, what do you think? Like you're saying I'm guilty. She's like, well, if you saw the video, and that was like the first time I saw the video with
Uh-huh.
this lady telling me I'm guilty, and she's supposed to be my attorney. I mean, it was crazy. It was so unprofessional. Like I was nervous right away. Like when I went to her house or the law house or her firm, it was like her firm slash apartment slash daycare slash office. I mean, it was horrible. I mean, it was just all these red flags, and I couldn't do it. And it's sad to say, but like my grandfather, who we're very close with, my mama and my papa, he passed away, and he left my mom an inheritance,
Hmm.
and that's what she used to hire my lawyer. I call him my fancy pants because he always wore nice suits. But like when I hired him, it was a game changer
So
because he
you initially had a public defender that,
right,
like you said, didn't believe you.
right.
And just fair point that I'm going to make. I am no fan of lawyers. Okay, so take this with a grain of salt, but public defenders, there are some very good ones out there. There are also some very bad ones, and most are somewhere in the middle. And it sounds like you didn't have one of the better ones. I'll just leave it at that. But you were fortunate, it sounds like, to find a really good lawyer.
Well, see, it's good and bad because like his presence would scare them. Like he could question, like he was really good. He was worth it. He
Mhm.
was worth every penny. But when it was all over with, I tried calling this lawyer because I wanted to have my rights back. And I called him for like months and months and months, and he would never return any of my calls.
Hmm.
So then I kind of like got like a resentment, I guess, towards him after that, you know?
Yeah, well, I'm just curious, Jason, because I am not a lawyer. I always tell people that, but normally in that situation, I'm guessing he was probably a criminal defense lawyer. That was his focus,
Well,
not a
probably, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
he
not a
so
family
I look at
lawyer.
reviews. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
highly recommended.
Yeah, I'm not trying to defend him in any way, but more often than not, you need to go find a family lawyer. And this is something I would tell guys is, and I often do tell guys is, when you're dealing with situations like Jason's where you are facing potentially criminal charges, jail, all
Well,
of
that's the
that
thing.
stuff.
Yeah, I had criminal charges and I had I had like family court
Yeah, it's two
and
different
civil
things
court.
though.
I have two things, and but what they're each taking shit. I mean, stuff from me. I'm
Yep.
sorry.
No,
I'm
go
gonna get
ahead.
stabbed in the back by each one, and like it's both for something I didn't do. You know,
Right,
so
right.
how could I defend one without saying the other one? And then my lawyers say don't say something to this one because it can incriminate me for that one, and I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know nothing about this stuff.
it's pure insanity. That's exactly a point I was going to make up
Yeah,
is,
it's just it's like they point where to go or tell me what to do, and I just did
and
it.
you
You
just
know,
do it. Yeah, because, and the other side of it too, criminal court, it's, beyond a reasonable doubt. Family court or civil court, it's preponderance of the evidence. It's he said, she said. And like you said, that video was out there. Um, you kind of talked about how your family was supporting you and all that. And like, did it affect you job wise or any of that? Because it's something that I've often run into with guys lose their jobs
yeah,
because of allegations like this. Did any of that happen to
yeah.
you?
Oh my gosh, yeah. At the time, I lost my job, but it's affected me since then. Um, at the time, I was driving through on I was driving on the highway, and I got pulled over. And when I got pulled over, this detective, which is the same detective who had that earpiece on with that comfort house, and he pulled me out of my truck and he took my computer away, which was my company laptop, took my phone. I mean, they just tried taking everything digital that I had, and they confiscated it, and then they just let me go. And I don't know, it felt real. You know what I mean? I just couldn't
Hmm.
believe what was happening while I was getting pulled over.
Yeah,
And
I
that
mean, it must have been
detective,
surreal.
just the same
Yeah.
detective the whole time. Like it's just insane. It's absolutely insane.
So did he? I mean, I know how the police react to this. Unfortunately, did he ever at any point like? I'm not sure the best way to say this. Did he actually listen to you, or was he had already made up his mind and because
Detective,
yeah,
no one ever asked me anything.
really,
I never took the stand. I never got asked anything. They just indicted me. Like no one asked me. No one asked me my side of the story. No one asked me nothing. It was just I'm guilty right from then, and like the whole 4 years of my life just gone, just like that. And like no one's ever asked, and that's why like I've been living my life like hiding. And finally, like I said, screw it. I made that video, and it just felt so good to like own it
hmm,
rather than run from it.
that's the first step in healing, my friend. Is acknowledging what happened to you, and
Right.
then you know go from there. It's a different journey for everybody, But having worked with many guys like yourself, the first step is, like you said, owning it, right? It's not your fault, but you have to acknowledge that it happened to you. I mean, I hear in your voice the passion behind it and all that, and I'm sure anybody else listening to this is going to pick up on that. It's, it's a horrific situation. As I said in the opening, I've been through some bad stuff. It's nothing compared to what you're dealing with. My personal opinion is this is the one of the worst, if not the worst thing you can do to another human being is label them, for lack of a better term, a pedophile, right? I mean, that's basically it.
And the worst part is after that, it got worse. Even after she came out, got honest, it got worse. They still kept taking stuff from me. I had to hire a second lawyer. The first lawyer for the criminal one, but like I said, I don't know what you call it, civil or the other case, not the criminal one, but the other one.
Yeah, it's probably the family law case.
Family law, I'm
yeah.
sorry. The family law still said they had their case against me. And they said something like, and don't quote me because I'm just trying to remember what they said. They said that with me having ownership of that house, that I could go there at any time I want to. So therefore, if I sign over the rights to my house, that my ex-fiance would have enough power to say I can't come over, to where the child would feel protected, rather instead of me being able to go over anytime I want, even though I didn't live there. So I had to get a quick claim deed and give her the rest of the house. And I've spent years remodeling that house.
I was just saying, do you mind if we explore this a little bit? So
yeah.
You owned the house. It was just in your name. She wasn't on the deed.
It was in both our names.
It was in both names. Okay.
Yeah.
So she then starts the case against you. Family court, I'll just generalize it with that, or maybe Child Protective was involved, I'm sure, at that point, came to you and said, your name's on the house. Legally, you do have the right to access the house because your name's on it. I get that part of it. So they were doing everything they could to get your name off of it.
They didn't even say anything. I come back to the house, and I was actually at my house with my ex and my daughter, and they just showed up at the house pounding on the door. I went out the back window, and I had to run away. And I had my parents come pick me up. And then that's the second part of the whole thing with the second lawyer.
So, this is an important thing for anybody listening to hear, because you owned the house. You had paid for it all these years. I'm sure you did work on it and all that. We all do, right, when we own a house.
Right.
And in the end, it was taken away from you. Did you get any compensation subsequently for that, or you just signed it away?
No, it just cost me more money for the lawyer. It kind of seems like the lawyers just want to take your money and they make a deal. And then they talk you into making you think that the deal's a good deal.
Yep.
And there you have it,
Yeah, and a lot of guys, like you were saying, they're scared, they're confused, they don't know. I've studied the law, and I get scared and confused sometimes.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it,
Yeah, you're living in a surreal world. You have no idea what's happening. And just when you think you start to get a grasp on it, they hit you with something else. I mean, I can relate to this. I understand where you're coming from. But just kind of...
But, the whole problem really, it's not about this. It's about, at this whole time, this whole thing's going on, I can't. Can you stop it?
I absolutely can.
Oh, no, it's all right. I didn't get to see my daughter for the whole time. And then they said that they did some swab, and they said that she might have some kind of skin cancer or some kind of cancer. And that was the last thing I heard, that they found that. No one ever said that if it was gonna go away or if it was something serious. I just had no clue, It was the whole side of my life just got shut down. I'm sorry. I don't know what I did wrong.
No, you do whatever you need to, my friend. That's, you share, and if you need to stop, we'll stop. Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, there is nothing. Let me be very clear to you, my friend. There is nothing you need to be sorry about. You are being very genuine, and I appreciate it, and I feel you. All right. It's what you're going through, have gone through, is horrific. And like I said a little while ago, this is the worst thing you can do to another human. And here is your story, right? So the love you have for your daughter is so obvious here. You can hear it, you can see it. How old was she then, and how old is she now? If you don't mind sharing that.
She's around 7 then, and she's about 10 now.
And have you had any contact with her at
About
all?
6 or 7. Yeah, she was young. She was probably about when she was 6.
Okay. And have you had any contact with her since?
Since yes, but not for like a long time. After the truth came out and stuff, uh, my ex and I, we tried working things out, and because I wanted to be part of my daughter's life, and it didn't work out. I didn't feel comfortable around my stepdaughter anymore, anyways. It was just very weird. Like how am I supposed to live somewhere with my own daughter when my stepdaughter almost took my life away?
Right.
I don't know.
It's
And
I can't even fathom that, to be honest with you. How I mean, you're a better man than I to even consider it, because I don't know that I could walk into a situation like that. I'd still want to see my child. Don't get me wrong. And I have a stepson that I raised. With my ex, I consider him to be my child because I helped raise him, and I'm sure you do too with your stepdaughter.
my stepdaughter, I've been in her life since she was 4 or 5 years old.
Hmm.
She did competitive dancing. Like she's done everything. Like she's never had to go without. Um, she had an issue with her father passing away, and that was really, really hard on her. But like, it's still no excuse for what she said about me. I always felt like she wanted her parents to get back together. And that's okay to a certain extent. But like, uh, you shouldn't say those things about me. It's
No.
crazy.
How old was she at the time that she made the allegations? Do you mind sharing that?
Let's say 12, 13.
So, I mean, she was not young, but she wasn't a teenager
Right.
at that point either.
Right.
So, um, unfortunately, they're susceptible to some coaching. And I can't say she
That's
was
what I
coached.
heard about that, about the detective and the comfort house.
Yep.
And I don't know how the kids come up with what they said. Um, even though they said they heard pictures, I was taking pictures in the bathroom, put my thumb up her butt, like how do I get this stuff, bite my daughter like a shark.
Yeah,
I don't
it's,
know.
I mean, it's especially having worked with other guys in similar situations to yours, and heard some of the things that were said about them. A common thing, just to let people know watching or listening, is that pay attention to what the child is saying, because if they start using words that a child of that age wouldn't normally use, it's a pretty good sign they're being
Right.
coached. I actually saw not too long ago on TikTok, and I made a video about it. There was a mom had the kid was probably 5 or 6 years old saying things that no 5 or 6 year old would know the words.
Right.
I
So
mean
yeah.
that's a pretty
Well,
good
it's
sign right
kind
there.
of there you had this detective in the comfort house. And I found out later through my ex telling me, we were trying to get along and stuff. And she just told me so much stuff that just sounded like outrageous. But some of it makes sense, even though it is outrageous. She said that, well, I found out that, so they made an appointment for my stepdaughter to do this interrogation investigation or this video. And so they go to this place, and she brought my daughter with her because she's got no babysitter. They decided to take my daughter, who has nothing to do with this case at the time, and interview her first. And then when she came out from the interview, then all of a sudden she was accusing me of stuff. And then
Mm-hmm.
my stepdaughter went in there and like, no, and I mean, I'm only telling you maybe like half, even if it is half the stuff that was on that video. Like, there's so much more,
Mm-hmm.
and like I just kind of blocked it out. I can't watch it. I don't want to hear about it. Like, that's just certain things they said like stick in my mind. Other than that, like I just block it all out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, better to kind of the way you're dealing with it, right? Is to not avoid it, but just say, hey, it's only so much I can deal with, right? I mean, there's so much pain involved in that. And that's something that I hope people that are hearing what Jason's saying, not just the words, but listen to his voice, because you can hear the pain in your voice, my friend. And I'm here to support you as much as I can, right? That's why I wanted to have you on. And I hope you understand that you are not alone with this, right? This happens to lots of guys, and I'm talking
I realize that on
thousands
TikTok.
upon thousands, and a lot of guys don't think it'll ever happen to them until it does. I never had to deal with what you're dealing with. But I went through family court. I know things were said that I knew weren't true, and I had to deal with it. That's why I say what I went through is nothing compared to what you're dealing with. And to try and handle that emotionally, it's especially when you're talking about a potential criminal case, because the fact of the matter is, if they had done criminal with this, you were indicted. That's a criminal thing. We talk about, go ahead.
I tried making phone calls because people asked me on that video, and I knew that wasn't right. Like, I called, like I told you, I tried calling my one attorney about my rights. He wouldn't return anything. And I called a couple other law firms, and it was after a year or so. And no one would take my case or even listen to my story, because I don't know, they didn't want to go against the city, or I don't know. I asked a couple people and a couple lawyers, and they wouldn't take my case. And it was just that, left it at that.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard similar stories from other guys too. Let's face it, when you get an allegation like that, lawyers, I mean, their job is to defend you in court to the best of their ability, but a lot of them won't take on that because they don't want their name associated with it, which, right or wrong, that's the reason they do it. I don't agree with it, by the way, but and to be fair,
it's a big risk for them.
It is a big risk. I mean, we have to acknowledge that. But the other side of it is, that's why they went to law school, right? My argument to them is, these are the cases you should be taking, because this is an injustice that's going on. And like you said earlier, the one lawyer thought you did it. And how do they represent you? I mean, I don't want to turn this into bashing lawyers, but I kind of agree with you on a lot of this stuff. And by the way, I've had divorce lawyers on the podcast, really good ones. And I have one coming on in a couple of weeks. She's phenomenal. But she'll be the first to tell you that, she hates divorce lawyers. So you'll have to watch that one when it comes on. Can we circle back a little bit about how the investigation was done? Because I want guys to understand from your perspective what it was like to go through it, dealing with, it was just one detective, you said, right? It wasn't multiple people.
Right. One detective.
So he never sat down with you or met with you, or did he?
No.
He never met with you.
The only time I had any contact with him is when he pulled me over.
And can you share?
No, I take that back.
Okay.
I had a run-in with him when I was probably about 15, 20 years prior to this. And so I met him a long time ago, but I haven't seen him since until he pulled me over.
And I'm sure he pulled you over. He had his probable cause. How did that interaction start out, if you don't mind sharing? He had to have known it was you.
Yeah, well, when I was younger, I didn't have the best childhood. I started smoking and drinking and partying, and I got in a little bit of trouble. And I had to do some stuff, pay some fines to get out of this trouble. Mm-hmm. And he was the guy that was like against me, or arresting officer. And he kind of said that, oh, you're spoiled. Your dad always gets you out of everything. And it kind of seemed like he was mad about it. But I did what I had to do, what I was required to do. And like I said, it was a long time ago. So he knew my name already. He knew who I was. Mm-hmm. But I hadn't seen him in years. There's a big space in time between then and this.
So then, he pulls you over. Like you said, he confiscated a bunch of stuff, which I'm sure they were trying to use in the case.
I never got that stuff back either,
Have you?
Which isn't really a big deal.
Yeah. When, just if you don't mind my asking, when did they close the case? How long ago?
It's about 5 years ago.
So it's been a while. It's not like it happened yesterday. I'm not a lawyer.
Right?
But I would think that someone should be able to give you your stuff back, right? It's like ridiculous.
I'm not worried about stuff. I want more time with my daughter.
So that's that's kind of a good segue to go with. So this is 5 years ago. Your daughter's now how old?
10.
10. How is she doing now as far as having been through this? Because this had to affect her. How are you seeing? Is she any? Is
My
she,
daughter has the most amazing, unique personality that you'll ever meet. And she don't show no signs that affect her one bit. I mean, you would never even tell, which makes me happy. Like I don't say anything. I don't bring it up. When she gets older, maybe she'll realize on her own, but thank God, my daughter, to my knowledge, she just seems like a happy 10-year-old.
and do you see her often, or do you? I mean,
That's like up and down. Like I said, I have an ex who just likes to play mean games with me, and she uses my daughter kind of as a tool against me.
hmm and
Uh,
yeah, you got to be careful with what you say with that. I know,
right,
and I will help you with that and make sure that you keep you protected on that. But,
right.
um, you know, anybody listening or watching this, listen to what he's saying right there, because a lot of guys think this would never happen to me, and yet it happens all the time. I
Right.
hear from guys like Jason all the time, and they first thing they'll usually say, "I can't believe this is happening to me," which is what you said, right? It's
Right.
just utter disbelief. And the thing that people need to realize is, for all the pain that Jason's dealing with, and I'm glad your daughter's doing well, but your daughter probably has been affected, right? And we have to acknowledge that. And again, we're not trying to play shrinks or anything here, but
Right.
when a child goes through that, because I lived with what we're talking about in a nutshell is parental alienation involved also, and I grew up dealing with that because my mother tried to alienate me from my father. I'm 60 years old, or I will be shortly. It still affects me to this day.
I mean, like I'm not in her shoes, so I mean,
Yeah,
she
it's
doesn't
tough.
show it, but I believe you. How can you not be affected by it?
Um, what?
Um,
Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, like when it first happened, in my mind, I was like, well, any day now they'll find the truth. It'll be dropped any day now. And that was my mentality. I was like, why should I worry about anything when I didn't do anything? And then like after I got indicted, like it just changed everything,
Mm-hmm.
But at first I wasn't taking it very serious. I was more pissed off about it. I was pissed off and I wanted to see my daughter. Like I really wasn't thinking about the criminal side of it, not at all.
Right, right. Did you spend any time in jail or prison? Not prison, it would be jail.
No, no, sir.
Okay, so you were fortunate that way, because I mean, there are guys.
But when the indictment came out, my lawyer told me to get out of town, basically.
Really.
So I don't know. I went to a hotel and I stayed there for a few days.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't speak to why they did that, but it's not uncommon, by the way, for guys to get indicted and then end up in jail, right, for
Oh,
days, weeks, months.
yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
because, and especially if they don't have the means to get a lawyer. I mean, yeah, you're supposed to get a public defender, but if they did, like you had your parents helping you out, there are a lot of guys that wouldn't even have that, and
Exactly.
then they're going through even more, right? Because if you're sitting in jail for something you didn't do, is there anything worse really in life? Um, has there been any reaction from people once they have found out the truth? Like everything got dropped. Did anybody like reach out to you and say, "Geez, man, I didn't know," or anything along those lines?
I had a few friends say we knew all along that you couldn't have done this. It made me happy. But at the same time, when I was going through all this, nobody was like, "Hey, are you all right?"
Mm-hmm.
Or "What's going on?" They just afterwards, like, just kind of by running by them, they would say, "I believed you all along. We knew you couldn't do nothing like this." But still, I'm happy. I'm grateful that they say that. Like I just gotta accept it.
Yeah, I mean, you put yourself in their shoes. I'm sure you have. You understand why they reacted the way, but you also sit and go, "Where were you when I needed you?"
That's the horrible part. Like, yeah, try going to your daughter's school functions
Yeah,
after that happens.
actually, I was going to ask you a little bit about that.
Right.
So, when you're out in public now, how do people react to you? Like, for example, at a school function or even in the store or whatever.
Like secrets, I wish I was at more school functions, but I've not been invited to any of them. But at one school function, there was kids have dads, and I guess one of their dads was a cop, and he was making whisperings, and it kind of got around, and I felt really uncomfortable, and we just went ahead and left.
That's horrible because, I'm going to leave it at that.
That's why.
I'll go off
That's
on a
why
10-minute rant.
I gotta read that paper on my phone.
Yeah, I would.
I'm like, oh, show. I'm like, look, it's not me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm about to go on a 10-minute rant and to defend you on that. Let's just say that that's not right and leave it at that. But if you're out and about, I'm sure you're still getting the looks, I'll call it, or whatever, from people.
Oh yeah. Jobs, like it's hard for me to get a job. Um, they do, searches and stuff, and I wish they wouldn't, but today it's like a digital world. There's been a few dates I tried going on, and it's like we're talking, and all of a sudden, I guess they call it ghosting you.
Yep. Yeah.
Like when they look at my name and this and that, I get ghosted afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. I mean, I just to let everyone know, I did a Google search myself on you, and we talked about it before we went on air. And
Right.
the first thing that pops up is that you were indicted. Now, let's be clear to anyone that's paying attention to this. An indictment does not mean you're guilty. The whole saying that I've heard my whole life is you can indict a ham sandwich, and that's true. Just to kind of talk about it from a legal perspective slightly, again, I'm not a lawyer, but basically all an indictment is the district attorney or someone in their office has a panel of people, and they hear only the evidence from the DA. You're not there to defend yourself. There is nothing from your side. And then the DA goes, give me an indictment, yes or no, and they basically raise their hands, and enough of them do it, you're indicted. It's that easy. They're only hearing one side. There is minimal evidence presented. They have to present some, but and it's always, as I'm sure you know, they twist things and all that to make it look better for them. So an indictment means nothing in the scheme of things, right? And then you go to court and all that, which you never had to, right? As far as like a trial or anything like that. The charges were just all
I was doing a family court thing.
Right.
And so I was doing a family court thing, and I had a lawyer for the criminal part.
Mm-hmm.
But the criminal part didn't get up and going yet because she got honest before it actually went to a trial.
So you're indicted at that point. They're getting ready to, I'm sure, to go to trial, and that takes a little bit of time. So was it at that point that your stepdaughter retracted her story? How did that all shape out, if you don't mind sharing with that?
I'm not sure when or what day it was, but I was with my family, and we went to Florida. We wanted to just get away where no one knew us,
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden I get a phone call, and it was my ex on the phone. She was crying, and she was told me basically that my stepdaughter came. She said she didn't do it, and my ex kept telling me she was sorry, but she didn't believe me, and she was sorry, but she didn't ask me first before kicking me out.
Wow.
And, that's how I found out, But it was like a couple of months later till it was actually like done and final and everything. But yeah, I found out on just a phone call.
So you heard from your ex that initially that it had been,
Right.
Wow, because that's not common, my friend. I have to tell you that. Normally the exes are the ones coaching. I don't know that happened here. I'm not alleging.
Okay, I know one thing though. I know it's got to be one or the other because there's no way they could have come up with stuff they said.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not in a million years. It's just no way.
And after it came out like that, did you hear anything from the DA's office or the police as far as, hey, we found out that this was all made up. They just kind of dropped it, right? That's how they normally do it.
Yeah.
So,
they're like, oh, we're sorry. That's it.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's a shame, right? Because now I'm assuming it made the media in your area. It usually does, right? Papers, radio, TV, whatever it might be.
right, right.
And I want people to understand this because I know your answer already. But did they ever put anything out saying, nope, he's completely innocent? This was all,
I wish.
yeah.
I wish.
So they've done
Uh,
nothing to retract anything that they said
no.
prior to that. Have you ever tried reaching out to them just out of curiosity?
There was a couple of news agencies that I tried sending like my story to, but I never got a response.
Have
I mean, this is really like the PG version right now.
Yeah, having
Um,
worked in media myself, I could tell you the odds of you getting a response are pretty slim,
right.
unless you catch the right reporter, right?
Um,
Because anybody who watches the news knows it's 99% negative. They're not going to talk about something that shows you in a positive light because they've already painted you in
yeah,
a
I don't get
negative.
news.
Yeah. So it's unfortunate, but that's why I wanted to have you on is so you could share your story. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, this show, do both Jason, myself, and yourself a favor and share this because we need to get the word out that these things happen. They are not as uncommon as people think they are. And listen to what Jason's saying here, the horror he's been through. Um, have you, like on a personal level, have you kind of started kind of healing from it? We talked a little bit about that earlier, but where are you at right now with it all? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pissed off.
Okay.
Um, that's about it. I'm tired of playing games to see my daughter. I'm tired of pretending like it didn't happen to me. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of worrying about it. I figured if I just come out and just own it, you know what I mean? Like, this is me. If you don't like me, oh well, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It really, it doesn't change the way I feel, but it makes me just not be so scared anymore. I would love anything to just move somewhere and start my life over, but it's just not that easy, you know?
Well, you want to stay in contact with your daughter, right? So this was going to be something I was going to mention. So I'm glad you kind of brought it up, which is some people would argue, well, just move to, let's say, Florida, because you said you went to visit there. Why doesn't he just do that and start over? Well, he's got a daughter. He can't just up and leave her, right? What are your
Well,
thoughts?
also, like, God, I mean, if something unfortunate happened to my ex, I would have no rights to my daughter. Like, she would go live somewhere. What? I don't know. I don't know where she would go.
Yeah, where are you at with all? That's an interesting point. Where are you at as far as regaining custody or parental rights or any of that?
Well, I contacted a lawyer. Oh, I found a lawyer that would actually do my case, and he wanted so much money up front. And he wants so much money if he thinks I have a case. You know, so he just wants a bunch more money.
And let's be clear, he's not asking for a couple $100 here, right?
No, and I asked him to do a payment plan, but he wasn't no,
Yeah,
he wouldn't do that either.
I'll throw numbers out, tens of thousands of dollars. I know you probably don't want to share, but I know the reality. It's, when you're dealing with a normal family court case, they'll want a retainer of 10, 15, 20,000, depending on how much they think they need to do.
It's so crazy. Like that $15,000, like what I could have done with my family. You know,
Right.
it's a lot of money.
It is a
And not
huge
to
amount of
mention,
money.
like there's so much more. Like the house and like you ever let her have a car because I wanted my daughter to have a car. You know, so just took care of everything. You know, kept
Mhm.
paying the insurance, kept paying this, kept paying that, and then I don't know, it kind of boiled over. You know.
And as it's making its way through family court, um, people don't understand. I'm sure you spent a lot of money defending yourself on the criminal side. Now you've got to do the same on the. It doesn't just because some people will think that all the charges were dropped on the criminal side. Family court's just going to reinstate his rights and be done with it. It doesn't work
Well, I
that
was
way.
thinking,
Yeah, I'm
mhm.
sure you thought that way, right? It does not work that way, right? As I'm sure, unfortunately, you're finding out. Has CPS or Child Protective come back to you with anything? Are they saying anything to you now when you see your daughter? Is it supervised visitation? And again, you don't have to answer on any of these if you don't wish to.
Nobody's ever said anything to me ever. No, I didn't. No one with the criminal thing. No one asked me if I did it. With the child services, no one asked me. Anything. That's just I was guilty already.
Unfortunately, you're viewed as guilty until proven innocent, despite what our legal
Right.
system says. But
Well, why can I be there with my house and she could be? Or
right,
her and her stepdaughter go somewhere with me and my daughter.
right. Um, where and again, I know you have to be careful with what you say, and I understand if you don't want to answer this. What happened with your ex after the truth came out? As far as, was there any criminal charges brought against her? Has there been anything done against her, or have they just basically ignored it?
Nothing. Yeah, just slap them back. Nothing at all.
So again, there's no consequences to her. There's none
I
against your.
wish that girl's never had a consequence her entire life.
Yeah. And again, we wouldn't want to wish a consequence on your stepdaughter at all, because
Exactly.
that's 12 at the time. It's not fair. But, this is something that people need to hear about, because, yeah, there are cases out there where, in fact, I just heard of one, false allegations happen. Sometimes the person making the false allegation, the parent, the mother, majority of the time, might face some consequences, but the majority of the time, the overwhelming majority of the time, nothing happens to them. And unfortunately, that's what leads to these things, right?
Right.
I feel for you in that situation. You still have to be in contact with her because she is the mother of your daughter. How do you face that? I honestly, I don't know that I could do it.
So hard right now. It's weird. I mean, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but it's very uncomfortable. Let's just put it that way.
I,
When I go there to see my daughter, I feel like my ex is more than mother to my daughter. It's weird. Like I'm asking her permission if I can do stuff. It's just totally awkward.
I,
Or I'll have my daughter. I'll be doing something. She'll be like, "You're not. She's not allowed to do that. You have to do it this way." She's always trying to correct me, and it's just I don't know anymore. I don't know. I don't know what to do.
yeah, you just want to be with your daughter and be her dad and support your daughter and all that stuff. I have to give you credit where credit's due. You're a better man than me, because I don't know that I could do that. I honestly don't. Having gone through what
Well,
you go through, I have to give you a ton of credit, my friend, because you're prioritizing your daughter by doing what you can, right, and putting up with that. I sit here and I'm like, I am, I admire you, for lack of a better term, that you're able to do that,
uh,
because
I don't know if
I,
I
I,
wouldn't be a situation like
I couldn't do it. I don't think I could do it. Knowing what you've gone through and having faced that, and I'd want to see my child. Don't get me wrong, and I would do everything I had to see her. But to interact with the ex who did that to you,
It's not
kudos,
only that, but you got to think it's not only my ex that did that, but it was my
and your
stepdaughter who
stepdaughter, right?
mentioned it. And my stepdaughter's kind of like a mom to my daughter, and all of a sudden my daughter gets wrapped in this whole thing where it was my stepdaughter who made the accusations. My daughter wasn't brought into it at all until the comfort house. They wanted, and they just brought her in,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden now my daughter's making accusations, and it's kind of weird dealing with those two. Like they're best sisters. I love them. She's a great, great sister. I don't want to say nothing negative. It's just it's she has a lot of control over what my daughter does. She's plays a
Hmm.
very, very much similar to like a parental role, if you know what I mean.
Well, that's for lack of a better term, that's what an older sister or an older brother does for a sibling, right?
Mhm.
Is they're a mentor. I think that's kind of the words you were using. Is so I totally get that, and you can't fault her for that.
Right.
You would.
And it's weird when you're gone for years and all of a sudden your daughter looks different, the way she laughs. She just missed so much, of her life. I
Yeah,
hate that.
she missed from your life too. Let's be honest about that, right? So how long of a period was it that you two were out of contact, you and your daughter?
About 4 or 5 years.
So yeah, and think about it, prime growing up age, right? You said she was 6'5", somewhere around there, and up till roughly 11. I'm just using round numbers.
Right.
That's so, if you look at it from a psychological perspective, that is the key time that a father or mother has with their child, right? The child's gone through their initial growing up. They roughly say kindergarten in that area up till, preteen. That's when you have the most influence because, and I've studied this by the way. So if you have interactions with a child between, roughly the child's age your daughter was, that's when you're going to have the most significant impact. Doesn't mean you can at other times. Don't get me wrong. But all that's been lost for you and your daughter, and all that time and like you said, school events and all that stuff that many parents look back. I look back at it with my kids, and look, I went to hundreds of school concerts and stuff. Sometimes it was just like a pain in the ass. I'm not going to lie, right? It's like, oh crap, I got to go to another concert because I had 6 kids. And it was like every week I was going to the school for some event, and at the time, I was like, oh, crap, I got to go to another one. I had boys playing football. There were times, my daughter's playing softball. My one son's playing football. My stepson's playing football. Literally, my life was driving for different places.
But when it's taken away from you, you can't miss it, right?
Well, you can't, but you will, though, my friend, because now that I'm, 60 almost, and I look back at that, those are the most cherished moments I have right now, and you missed out on that, and I truly feel sorry for you for that, and I hope that you can find some way to regain whatever you can out of this, because your daughter, and you know this, your daughter needs you, especially now, and you clearly want to be there, right? Moving forward for yourself, what do you think you can do to help her? I mean, just, again, I've never been in that situation. I'm trying to understand, like, what the hell would I do next? I mean, do you have any idea?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's, again, you're trying to, like, navigate.
She's got a life I've missed of hers, like I've missed so much of her life, but then again, she doesn't know me from all the news too,
Mm-hmm.
So she's got to standoffish with me as well. It's just very uncomfortable.
Well, especially since she was involved in the allegations, she's got to know, that she went through that. I mean, I don't think she's forgotten it. I don't know. I'm not a shrink either. I always have to say these things, Jason. I'm not a shrink. I'm not a lawyer. But I get it, right? I mean, this is common sense, right? Mm-hmm. And hopefully, in time, having been a child that was alienated from his father, if I put myself in her shoes, down the road, there's going to come a day of reckoning for her. And I hope that she comes to you at that point. And, I have worked with guys, I've talked with many guys that have had that happen. And you can never replace the time you've lost. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say you can. But those moments can be magical because then you reconnect and you can rebuild. It is possible. And I hope for you that that does happen. I genuinely do. Let's kind of like start wrapping things up. What would you say to a guy that, in general, like how would you say, watch out for this, things to look for? I know you were blindsided, but now that you've kind of had a couple years to kind of look back at it, is there anything you could have done differently or wish you had done differently to protect yourself?
There was signs early on. She would do some weird stuff. Like if my ex and I were upstairs, trying to have some alone time, she would sit at the bottom of the stairs and just scream, moan, and cry. She would just do it for hours and hours and hours until like it was like she was like a baby. It was really, really. She would like scratch her arms a lot. Like she wouldn't cut herself. She just could make it real red and rub it. She's had weird moments, and I was like, maybe we should take her to see a doctor. We were going to, and then she quit doing it. But it's happened like a few times. I mean, that's the only sign that I can think of. And maybe even if that is a sign.
I don't know. Right. Like I said, I'm not a shrink either, but I would think that's a pretty good indication that something was going on. Just from my own perspective, what I would say is trust your gut. If you think, like you were saying, you kind of thought something was right. Trust your gut, guys,
Right.
right?
I always say your God talking to you.
It actually is. I agree with you 100% on that.
Mhm.
If you're worried or think something's, a little off, there's a reason, and it's almost always a valid reason. I've lived my life trusting my gut, and better to err on the side of caution in these
You know what I
particular.
would tell a father? I think I would tell him to not stay in a relationship because of a kid. If it's something's not working out, you work something out. Don't
Mhm.
stay in something that's toxic just because you think that you'll lose your daughter. I should have left that a long time ago. I could have avoided all of this.
Good point. That's actually a really good point. Do you think it'll affect you for relationship wise moving forward? Can you ever trust again? I don't know that I could either at that point.
I don't know. It's hard to trust, but then again, like I have to move on somehow.
Hmm.
If I don't trust someone, I would want someone to trust me. So I don't want to sit there and say I would never trust anyone. But it's kind of weird because when you first meet someone, you don't say, "Hi, my name's Jason. I was accused of this, but I didn't do that." But if
Yeah.
the date goes good, normally when you have a date, they go home and do research your name. And I don't hear nothing back.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the first thing that pops up is that indictment, and
Right. And I'm not going to
it,
introduce myself like
it's
that.
and it's a pretty brutal way it's written. I mean, it's the legalese is what it is. But again, let's be clear to anyone listening: 100% cleared of everything. So
Yeah.
people need to understand that because there's going to be those that are going to go, yeah, but no, yeah, but cleared. Okay.
Right.
Um, Jason, we're going to wrap things up. Is there anything else you want to add to the conversation? Anything else that you want to say to anyone out there um, to kind of help them or make them understand
Um,
more?
there's people right now that are in jail or prison for something they didn't do. I realize there's a lot of people who've been through what I've been through or know someone who's gone through it. And I don't know, it's crazy. Like you said, just trust your gut. And I don't know. There's nothing you can do to prepare for something like this.
Yeah, I truly feel for you, my friend. I really do because I try to wrap my head around it. I was thinking about it over the weekend because we first communicated late last week and trying to even just understand what you went through because I've never been through anything like that, and for all the pain and suffering you've gone through, I applaud you for coming out the other end because yeah, you're still struggling a little bit. We can say that. I think it's obvious, but you have gotten through it, and I hope it gives you and others a glimmer of hope that down the road, you can. I don't know that you'll ever get
Well,
your life fully back, but at least get some life back.
and I just want to say just one more thing for
Sure.
other people here is that it's not just me. My parents they went through stuff too as being grandparents. It's like they're only grandparents whenever someone wants something or they need money. And it's just my grandparents haven't been able to see their granddaughter either. So it's not just affected me, it's affected my entire family.
That's a very important point. Thank you for bringing that up because you're right. And your daughter's missed out on that connection, right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah, it's sad. It's really sad. Like my mom. Like my mom's like my number one. It sucks. I know she'd be a good grandparent.
and again, she'll never have that opportunity. Even if you reconnect later on, that time is lost. And uh,
Right.
again, as speaking as a child that went through that, my father's family, I don't have much connection with any of them because of what happened to me. And again, nowhere near what you and your family have dealt with, not even close. Um, and it's horrible. And I truly feel for your parents also because I'm glad they stood by you. Thank God they did, right? But like you said, it affects not just you, not just your daughter, but the whole entire family around you. And
Forever.
I hope if someone is listening to this that's ever even considered doing what happened to Jason, becoming an alienator, you step back and listen to what's going on here, because there's a lot of alienators that think I'm just going to get him or her, right? Because it does happen to women too. I'm just going to get him. You're not just getting him. You're getting your child. You're getting the family around you, both his and her, yours. Your allegations like this, as you're finding out, right, Jason, don't go away. I'm sorry to say. There will be with you. You're dealing with them probably a million times better than I ever would.
And when you don't have rights, you have no say, you know?
Yeah. It's almost like you're in this like middle ground somewhere where, yeah, you're not guilty, but you're not innocent either, right? Because they will never, even though you've been proven innocent, everything's dropped. There's still those, like you said, that cop at the school whispering, right? It's never going to go away. I truly feel for you. Jason, I found you on TikTok. Well, actually, my followers found you and sent you to me, just so you know. Kudos to them, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, there was 3 or 4 of them that messaged me and said, you got to go hear this guy's story. And I think one of them actually tagged me in your video. But if people wanted to follow you on TikTok, how can they follow you? What's your handle?
I don't even know.
Hold on, I can look it up while we talk here, because I honestly don't know it either.
I think it might be a Birdman, because a lot of people call me Birdman.
It is. It's listed as Birdman. So what I will do, my friend, you're funny. I like that. At least you're honest about it, right?
Yeah,
I will add it to the show notes. So if you don't mind, Jason, if you want, if that way people can follow you, and if you want to keep updating on the story.
it's crazy because like I went through this thing and like I decided all of a sudden to like have some kind of bucket list, and that's why I don't know what I just made a deal. I said, you know what, I want 10 years. Just give me 10 good years, and then you can have whatever you want from me. Just give me 10 good years. And like I went and got my passport. I'm going to go I'm going to go skydiving next Saturday. I made this video. I downloaded TikTok 2 weeks ago. I'm just trying to do different things now.
That is amazing. Now, number one, there is no way I would jump out of a perfectly good working airplane.
Right?
Not going to happen. 10 years ago, I would have, though. I did one of those ropes courses up in the trees. It's about 10 years now. And, you know, there's different levels. And I got through the first 3 levels, and I was on the last obstacle and fell out 40 feet and just was hanging by this little thin wire. It was never in danger of like hitting the ground or anything. So, you know, I'm standing there, and then I got this little 100-pound girl comes over. And mind you, I'm 300-pound, you know, strongman type thing. She's like, sir, just pull yourself up. I'm like, you bitch. She was all of like 18 years old. Nice girl. You know, she's like, do you want me to reel you down? The most humiliating moment of my life. And lo and behold, she reeled me down to the ground. But ever since then, I've been terrified of heights. I know the exact moment it happened to me. So I applaud you for jumping out of an airplane. There is no way in hell I would do that now. I love that you're doing that, though, because you're moving forward, right? And to anyone that's listening to this, that, you know, if you, God forbid, you ever have to deal with this, focus forward. I always say that to people. You know, I'm a trainer also. People dwell in the past too much. You can't change the past. You can learn from it, and you should learn from it. But take what's happened, use it as something to give you strength to move forward. And it sounds to me, Jason, like that's what you're doing. So,
yeah, it's so much more like holidays are horrible. We absolutely hate holidays around here. You know, so anything you can do to try to not think about that or dwell on it, you know, it helps.
Yeah. I am with you on that. I despise the holidays myself because I haven't had a holiday with my kids, all of them, since 2007. you know.
It's
So,
sad.
and again, I'm not trying to make light of anything you're dealing with. I'm much less than what you're, but I hate the holidays too. And it's a very common thing, by the way, for guys, divorced fathers. They learn to despise the holidays because you're missing out. I do hope though
Right.
that you get some holidays with your daughter down the road. And if anybody's listening and you want to share your stories, comment on this, because one of the things I was talking with Jason about before we came on air is the importance of getting the word out about this stuff. The more we talk about it as guys, the better things will be. I applaud you. Like I said, I admire you, Jason, because you at least have the guts to come on and talk about it. That is, like you said earlier, you were scared, right? You were nervous to come on, scared. Um,
Yeah.
but you did it, and you're helping God knows how many people down the road. I hope you know that your strength you're showing right now by just doing this is going to make a difference.
I mean, it sounds really hard to believe, but if it helps anybody, like, I'm all for someone getting a benefit. It's just, I guess I don't realize how big this is, but I don't know if it helps anyone, that makes me very happy.
Trust me, it will. It will. We may not ever hear about it, but trust me when I say this, it will, because I've seen guys get help. I've seen guys share their stories. Probably the best way to heal, and I've talked about this with myself, it wasn't till I opened up and told my story that I healed. And you're doing that already. It took me 4 decades, really. So, it wasn't, I mean, I went through hell as a child and in my teens. It wasn't until I was about 40 that I got my shit together because I opened up. I had all the therapy in the world, didn't do a damn thing for me. Sharing my story is what changed my life. And I'm glad you're doing that. Anything else you want to add before we wrap things up, my friend?
No, I want to say thank you for anyone who's listened to my story, and I want to thank you for having me on your podcast.
Well, I truly appreciate you coming on. As I said, it's something that I'm very passionate about, is sharing guys' stories. And, I truly believe, to the bottom of my heart, the more of us that talk about what we go through, as horrible as it is, and yours is right up there, the things that we have to deal with, the more the public hears about it, the more we show our emotions behind it, as you did, as I do. People have to understand we are human beings. Yes, we're guys. We're not supposed to show our emotions. We need to start doing that. We need to start sharing our stories, because things aren't going to change until we do. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for being willing to share your story. I truly wish you nothing but the best, my friend. I want to stay in contact with you, help you out as much as I can. We'll chat a little bit off air too about some stuff that I don't want to share here. But I'm going to go ahead and close the show down. So you sit back and relax for a moment. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the show. Jason's story is a powerful one, and I'm not kidding. Share this. Help me spread the word. Help us spread the word about Jason, because you never know. It might be you next, or your friend, or a family member. And the more we can raise awareness about this, the better it is. There are some bad guys out there. We're not saying every guy is innocent. Jason is, okay? But there's a lot of innocent guys that get accused of things, and that should never happen, ever. Because it doesn't just hurt the guy, it hurts the child and everyone around him. So, thank you for watching. Hey, if you watch this far, give me a like. Subscribe to the channel. I've got a lot of good other shows coming up. I've got another gentleman that'll be coming on shortly to share his story that I alluded to earlier. I got a divorce lawyer coming on to share her thoughts on the whole family court thing. A lot of good stuff coming up, but you're not going to be aware of it if you don't hit the subscribe button. And again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Men Need to Be Heard.